All right, Rich Black Man asked, "What's the one move the Titans can't afford to mess up this offseason? Nailing the draft pick, making a big splash in free agency, or hiring the right head coach and OC?" I'm gonna say it's the third piece, right? And we're gonna reverse engineer this. They made
Let me
big
teach you how to
splashes in free
vibe.
agency in the last cycle. L'Jarius Sneed, Cheetah Bay, Wouzier, Lloyd Cushenberry, even Dan Moore, um, Calvin Ridley. Some of the bigger guys that they spent money on in this last cycle. Some have produced, some haven't. The jury's still out on some of the others, but I don't think, even though they got the most cap space in free agency, I don't think the free agent splash is going to dictate the long-term success of the Tennessee Titans, because their MO, from what Bergonzi and Brinker have said, is supplement in free agency, build in the draft, right? So we're going to reverse engineer that. So it's definitely not making a big splash in free agency. Nailing the draft pick. Last year's draft pick, I feel like he's batting 1,000. John Robinson had two horrible draft classes in 20 and 21. The jury is out on Rand's draft classes. Some home runs, some strikeout and a miss. So even if the Titans get the first round, the number one overall pick and trade back, or they fall somewhere in the top 5 and they get an elite player, what they draft in rounds 2, 3,
Let me
4,
teach you
5,
how
and
to
6,
vibe.
in that day 2 and early day 3 is more important than just nailing the number one overall draft pick, because you make your hay in those middle rounds. That's what you want to have, those draft successes. So I'm not gonna go there, but I'd put that above free agency. So free agency is third, nailing the draft picks is second. Number one is you got to hire the right head coach and the right offensive coordinator. Brian Callahan may well have been a good coach, but him hiring his coaching staff of first time coordinators, being in that position, and him being a first time play calling head coach, set the Tennessee Titans backwards. So I'm going to say the head coach and offensive coordinator is the most important, because yes, Sunday against the Browns was the first time you could say this season the Tennessee Titans had a better game plan than the team they played against. It's the first time the Tennessee Titans ran for more rushing yards than their opponent, not having Cam Ward drop back 40 to 50 times. He dropped back probably 10 times less than what he normally does, and he was more efficient. The ball came out faster. There were no sack fumbles. They was able to protect him. Myles Garrett only got 1 sack. That's attitude. That's coaching. That's culture. Backup center Corey Levin comes in. Dan Moore and J.C. Latham, Kevin Zeitler under heavy scrutiny. And, Tony Pollard has his best day running, and the Tennessee Titans win the war up front against the Browns, which nobody expected. Everybody expected the Browns to win the war up front. So I think whether you bring in a big free agents, I think the right head coach and offensive coordinator is going to have a lot to do with free agents wanting to come here. The draft pick, I think you're going to have the right coach to put the right scheme to find ways to get draft picks on the field. Even though he had a really good draft class this year, the coaching staff has not found a way to get Gunnar Helm the ball more. He'll break the rookie record for Tennessee Titans rookie tight ends Sunday against the 49ers if he plays, if he's not injured. Look how long it took to get Marcus Harris on the field. Look how long it took to get Kevin Winston Jr. on the field. We know Femi's out. Femi's hurt. You see the turnaround and the difference in Cam Ward's play second half of the season since the bye week when it comes to ball security and just overall processing of the game. And, for Jim DK, it took them almost 2 months to realize how good he was to get him the ball. And then Aomana They finally found ways to get him the ball in the red zone. Him being a red zone threat kind of is his specialty. You're going to need the right coaching staff, regardless of if you pick 10 draft picks and they're all studs. You're going to need the right coaching staff to be able to get them on the field and get the best usage out of those players. So to this question, this was a great question. And my answer is hiring the right head coach and OC is number one. Nailing the draft picks is number two. And free agency is number three. So shout out to Rich Black Man with a really good question. First question ever in the mailbag asked by Richard, the responsible black man. All right, we got one more question in the mailbag that we're going to go to. And another legend in the shop. Another legend in the shop. Becker. Let me say it better. Becker. Avid Arizona Cardinal fan. Gifted the Tennessee Titans their first win of the season. But Becker asked, who are your top head coach candidates you want to see Mike Bergonzi reach out to this offseason? Will it be more of an emphasis to get an offensive-minded head coach to mentor Cam, or simply getting the best head coach Bergonzi thinks will fit in Tennessee? That is a really good question. That is a really great question. My honest answer is I think it's the best head coach more so than having an emphasis on offensive-minded. I think you got to bring in your Robert Salas, your Brian Flores's, your Mike McCarthy's. You got to bring in your leader type guys, and also bring in your offensive minded guys, your Joe Brady's, your Kubiak's. Bring them in and see what's every different head coach candidate's plan that they would roll out for their staff. Will Bones Fossil stay? Does Denard Wilson have a future in Nashville? I think you gotta let them run all of those down, and you can't do like last time. A guy comes in the building and you say that's my guy and cut the process short. You got to go all the way through the process. You don't want to have buyer's remorse. And I can't fathom that somebody sat and watched Brian Callahan roll out a plan with first time coordinators at every level, and somebody signed off on that. I gotta say, you can't run away from an offensive minded head coach because Callahan didn't work. I think Callahan more so didn't work because you had a lot of first time guys with him, not a lot of experience, especially to the point of when you stripped him of play calling and you did actually give him the axe, him and Bill Callahan. You skipped over Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator, to let Bo Hardegree call plays, the QB coach. So I think in situations like that, you want to have more experienced guys coming in the staff with a guy, unless the head coach himself is a Mike McCarthy, somebody who's won a Super Bowl of that level, that's saying, hey, I want some new, fresh, young guys with some new philosophies coming in with me. It can't just be about Cam. It's got to be about the 53. Because Cam, the type of quarterback that he is he's a hard worker, and he's a guy that's all about football. So I think he's one in the locker room you don't got to worry about. But you do got to worry about the other 52. They trying to force the guy to smile about getting the win. He's focused on playing better. He don't really care about, getting ugly wins, even though they're hard to come by in the NFL. And sometimes that's how you got to take them. But that's a really good question. I think they should not do like last time and cut the interview process short. I think you got to interview everybody. You got to see everybody's plan. You can't rule out an offensive-minded coach because the last one didn't work. And you can't just come in saying, hey, I want a leader, a defensive type of guy, because we all know if you go that route, you're going to be dealing with offensive coordinators, turnover, which got us in this position slightly in the first place, that you had Mike Vrabel with Matt LaFleur and Dean Pease. And then Matt LaFleur is obviously the Green Bay Packers head coach. And then Arthur Smith comes in, and obviously Arthur Smith goes to Atlanta and now is the offensive coordinator for Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you can't rule out any of these guys. So if you want to interview Nagy, you want to interview Arthur Smith, if you want to interview any of these people, I think you should make a solid list of probably 4 to 5 guys that are offensive minded and 4 to 5 guys that are a leader type. Let them all bring their plan in, make a war room board, think long and hard about it, and make a decision. Because on top of this, you also got to pick somebody that wants to be here, is not looking ahead, because it's going to be a lot of options open. You've seen the college football coaching carousel that some people wind up not getting their first choices and just wind up settling. You never want to fire somebody and not have a better game plan to how you're going to replace them. Because if you go back to the board and you wind up getting your second or third choice, and this second or third choice is somebody worse than what you already have, then you're going to be setting yourself back even further. So this has to be the biggest decision that the Tennessee Titans will make regarding this franchise in the past, present, and near future. Is you bring the right coach in, you could be the Chicago Bears or the New England Patriots. You bring the wrong coach in, you could be treading water and ruin the rookie deal of Cam Ward. We all have watched how that's played out across the NFL. You got to marry somebody to Bergonzi. Let him have his guy that's got the same mentality in mind about how to build a roster, and go from there. Because even being outgunned and having less talent Sunday, you seen what a good game plan can do for a team when you decide we're going to run the ball at Myles Garrett and we're going to screen right at him the whole game. He's never going to get a chance to just line up and just rush. You seen him on Twitter and on TikTok. Sometimes he had 3 different guys blocking him on one single play, and it tires him out and it slows his motor down. And that's what you got to do. You got to have a game plan coming into each week. And this is going to be an important week. Moving on from the second question, is my topic today is, can the Tennessee Titans stack another game behind a win? They haven't been able to do that in years. And that's why I'm happy that Cam Ward seemed upset after the game. I know a lot of people thought it had to do with his performance being measured against Shedeur. I don't think it's that. I think he knows the media only cares about wins. And this next week against the 49ers, if he comes out and plays bad against the 49ers, this narrative only grows. He has to come out, be effective, make quick decisions, get them in the right protections, call the right run fits, and orchestrate the offense and put back-to-back games together and stack games, because nobody expects the Titans to beat the 49ers. If you play the 49ers and the Titans play a good game and they lose and it's competitive like the Seahawks game, then, you know, you start to silence the critics and silence the doubters that, you know, they're trending in the right direction, because they did this a couple times before in this season, and then the rug comes from up under them, and you're saying, yo, it's this game against the 49ers is really a better indication of who the Tennessee Titans are. Are they satisfied with one win where they could have played better and could have closed the game out differently? Or are they going to take that momentum and, after scoring a touchdown on the first drive all season in the last game, are they going to get a good special teams play out the gate to get the ball at the 40? Are they going to move the football and score right out of the gate and play complementary football on offense, defense, and special teams and put it together 2 weeks in a row? So it really doesn't matter whether they win or lose this game Sunday. Of course, I want them to win. But can they stack back-to-back performances where they play on all 3 phases, where they're not beating themselves and having 10, 15 penalties and getting in fights and things like that, running into punters when it's 4th down and 20? That's more what we want to see.
Let me teach.
All right, Rashid Jenkins, a.k.a. Mr. Bad Take, Mr. 52, tighten up, says, rewind back to 2022 NFL draft. What changes or move would you have made in order to build on the run after going 12-5? Losing to the Cincinnati Bengals at home in the divisional to Joe Burrow and the infamous Ryan Tannehill game. For those that aren't familiar, that is the year that the next season the Tennessee Titans could not reach an agreement with A.J. Brown. They traded him draft night. Mike Vrabel got up, flipped the tables over. Traylon Burks was drafted in the first round that year. We got the picks for him and Malik Willis. Roger McCreary, who is now on the Rams. We traded for a 6th round pick this year. Was our 2nd round pick out of Auburn. NPF, who was involved in some gambling things similar to Calvin Ridley, who wound up being inconsistent out of Ohio State. And then we had Hassan Haskins, who we let go, who is on the Chargers as their 3rd down short yardage and special teams back. Chig Okonkwo, who obviously is probably the best player from this class. Best last pick in the 4th round, tight end, has led the Tennessee Titans in catches, yards after catch pretty much since he's been in Nashville. Is our current leader now. Kyle Phillips, a special teamer, slot receiver who had trouble muffing kicks. He was good in the slot as a receiver, but not a fast, twitchy guy. Just a guy that knew how to run routes and get open. But his special teams failures wound up leading to him being on the Eagles practice squad when they won the Super Bowl. Theo Jackson is a contributor on the Vikings roster, and Chance Campbell, a really good linebacker, but could never stay healthy. To me, he was like a young version of what Cody Barton is now, like a good rangy, athletic linebacker. But pretty much you would say this entire class is pretty much washed now that we've traded Roger, and contingent upon whether they re-sign Chig Okonkwo or extend him at the end of this season, will tell you about the 22 draft class. Obviously, they cut Julio Jones in order to save money to try to re-sign A.J. Brown. I think you would have had to find some kind of way to go in the office and say, A.J. Brown is not leaving. Jeffrey Simmons is going to be under contract. We still have Derrick Henry. We're going to go in with Ryan Tannehill and have a conversation about, can we restructure or move his contract around to be able to keep that core nucleus of A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons, with Ryan Tannehill at QB. If that's the case, when you go back into that draft class, completely different. You have a whole different outlook on what you want to do with that draft. Obviously, that draft was not one of the better drafts that we've had, and ultimately was the reason that John Robinson was let go because of that draft class. I mean, that wind up being a Ryan Tannehill high ankle sprain that he never recovered from. That wind up being a team that was at the top of the AFC South that went on a losing streak and missed the playoffs with Josh Dobbs at QB. The fumble is it not fumble play. A.J. Brown went on to play in 2 Super Bowls and to win one and to have more receiving yards than our entire receiving core that next year in Philadelphia, and he broke records. Roger McCreary obviously traded to the Rams for a 6th round pick. NPF gone. That draft class is pretty much a waste, and it marked the end of that window, and it led to Mike Vrabel wanting more control in the front office to control the roster, even though he had some hand in some of those players picked in free agency and the draft. But ultimately, that led to Mike Vrabel walking out, being fired, whatever you want to call it, and him being on the Browns, now on to the New England Patriots, in the spin cycle of Rand to Brian Callahan to now Mike Bergonzi getting to pick his coach. So if you had to do it again, you got to go into that year saying there's no way that A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Jeffrey Simmons, like between those 3 guys, everybody else can go, but them 3 guys is going to be Titans. Because you look at A.J. Brown's contract right now, the original contract he signed with the Eagles was 4 years, $100 million, with $76 million guaranteed. You just gave $76 million to L'Jarius Sneed. You just gave $82 million to Dan Moore. You know, you look at some of the contracts. You got, Calvin Ridley's due $28 million next year. You just put in your head that there's no way that those three guys left. And where would the trajectory of the Tennessee Titans be if we talking about those guys still being here in Nashville? But hindsight's 2020. Had to definitely focus and learn from that decision, learn from that mistake. That the next head coach that you bring in, you have to tie them to Bergonzi. They have to have the same vision, and you have to go into this draft class, and not strike out like that. You got to have a draft class like Bergonzi just had with Cam Ward, Femi Oladejo, trading back and picking him and getting the draft pick that you got to get Kevin Winston. There's no Kevin Winston if you don't trade back in the second. If you take Luther Burden and you don't trade back and get Femi, you don't get Kevin Winston. So you have to do things like that. You have to get Tim Ray DK, NFL's all-purpose yards leader right now. Gunnar Helm, tight end 1, who's going to break the Tennessee Titans rookie tight end record against the 49ers Sunday. Alec Aomana is at the top of the list of wide receiver rookies this year with 3 touchdown catches and around about 400 yards, being a big physical outside target. Thinking about Jackson Slater, a center / guard for the future, with Lloyd Cushenberry being in question with Corey 11 playing center right now, and with Zietler's contract being up next year. Will Jackson Slater play right guard? And then your next pick was Marcus Harris, who had the hit stick fumble against Dylan Sampson, who right now is our best corner. And I told y'all that like almost 2 months ago. I said Marcus Harris is our best corner. They took him from outside, moved him to nickel, was our starting nickel. Now they moved him back outside, and he's making game-changing plays like that. Along with Khalil Mullins. We'll get to see Khalil Mullins hopefully down the stretch, who's been injured most of his rookie campaign. 6'2", 225-pound running back out of Michigan. And then the final piece to that puzzle was Restrepo finally got to get on the field and start producing. So you look at that draft class of having an undrafted free agent pan out in Restrepo, and then having that draft class, you got to be able to recreate that again this year.
Let me teach you how to vibe.
You got to make better choices in free agency. Stop looking for home run hits in free agency. No $20-30 million players. Go get you some Sebastian Joseph days. Go get you some guys like that and sign guys that are going to be contributors to the football team. Instead of trying to look for home run hits, you got to build the culture. And that's a really good question, You got to learn from your mistakes. You can't go back and change and put Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown back on the team. You can't get Mike Vrabel and Matt LaFleur back in the coaching staff. But what you can do is look for that next head coach. Are you going to be a head coach that can bring in a Matt LaFleur and a Dean Pease and an Arthur Smith behind that? Are you going to be able to put a staff together like that year after year? Are you going to be able to get the most out of your players? And ultimately, you got to have the GM and the head coach be on the same page so that a top 10 wide receiver and a Hall of Fame running back don't wind up leaving up out of your organization and balling somewhere else. That's a really good question, though. All right, Decan Gasman says, what's the top 3 positions the Titans need to focus on in the offseason? Wide receiver, cornerback, edge. Pretty obvious. Wide receiver, because as good as Tim DK is, as good as Aomana has played, the fans know, the unclouded judgment know what Restrepo is, but Van Jefferson, a good teammate, a good veteran to have around on the roster, a Tennessee native. Tyler Lockett walked off. Calvin Ridley will be dropped around the June 1st cutoff, and they'll eat some of that contract. I think $10 million. You got to put some guys that like some Nico Collins, Michael Pittman Jr., Tetroa McMillan. You got to put some dunkers on the outside. Cam Ward needs guys that has a catch radius that could beat man coverage. You see when the Browns went zero blitz, Cam missed a touchdown to DK, and then Van Jefferson dropped one. You need that one-on-one to be a dunker. You don't need it to be Van Jefferson. If I got somebody one-on-one man press the whole game, that outside receiver should eat, and they should have a field day. Like, you're not going to zero blitz the Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're going to eat you alive. So that's what the Tennessee Titans need. In that cornerback, you see Marcus Harris, a rookie who was not even a starter, barely on special teams to start the season. He's now our best cornerback. They took him from nickel to outside. He made one of the game-changing plays, forcing a fumble Sunday. Darrell Baker Jr., good guy, plays hard. Probably our best outside corner right now. Was the sixth string when the season started. You talking about L'Jarius Sneed having an indictment for alleged drive-by shooting. Talk about Jarvis Brownlee being traded to the Jets. Roger McCreary being traded to the Rams. So when the Titans are down to number 5, 6, Armar Davis is 7. He's hurt. He's out for the season. And then Micah Robinson and Kairi Lom and Womack got cut and waived, and Cheetah Bay got cut, and he's on the Ravens. So you think about the Titans are down to like cornerbacks 6, 8, and 9. You know, so Titans need some outside guys that you can leave out there. You know, you talk about the Texans game, giving up a 3rd and 16 for the game. 2nd and 33 with them backed up on their goal line the first time we played them when it was a 6-0 game in the fourth
Let
quarter.
me teach you how to
Talk about
vibe.
Devontae Adams dunking. Now, Tay Adams is going to dunk, but you need somebody that him and Sutton, you know, JSN has a season high. Like every big name receiver has had a season high when they play the Titans because they pretty much get the roam free. Jacoby Myers wide open in the end zone. You seen it. Jerry Jeudy making people fall down. Made Darrell Baker damn near fall down Sunday on his bomb. So we need outside corners. We need a wide receiver that can beat man coverage. Elite wide receivers, elite cornerbacks. And then at edge, Arden Key's contract is up. Jahad Ward contract is up. Femi Oladejo will be back next year, our 2nd round pick out of UCLA, edge rusher. You got to put somebody on the edge. Harold Landry's on the Patriots. Bud Dupree's on the Chargers. You got to put some goons on the edge. You got T Sweat and Jeff Simmons in the middle, and those guys can move around. So you put some on the edge. You got something to work with. And I think they should bring Jahad Ward back. He's been really good. Free agent pickup. And Sebastian Joseph Day, I think, has been solid in rotation. Because we got C.J. Ravenel from the Ravens, and we got James Lynch. And those guys are rotational guys. Shy Tuttle from the Saints, Panthers. But we definitely got to add in some of those depth spots like that. So I'm going to say edge, cornerback, wide receiver. And honestly, I want wide receiver in the draft. I want cornerback, free agency and draft. And I want edge, draft, and free agency. However, they got to get it best player available. But you got to grow some young goons. That's a really good question, too, Gas Man. Those are the 3 positions the Tennessee Titans have to focus on. All right, so Jeff has a non-football question, but it's a life question. And, you know, in the shop, we are Renaissance men. We are multifaceted, so we can do more than one thing. You feel me? All right, so Big Jeff says, not sports related, but just life related. Looking back to where you are at now in life, if you had a message to your younger self, what would your words be? What would you tell yourself about how to navigate all your trials and tribulations? How would you tell them that it's not going to be easy, but you're going to be okay? Okay, that's a deep question. Funny story is I was having a conversation with a coach, a local coach, is a high school coach, about his connection to some of the guys that just recently got hired in the SEC. I ain't gonna name him because I don't want to put people's business out there, but he was saying how his son almost missed getting signed to Coach Sumrall because he's living with his mother instead of him, and because he could do more of what he wanted to do and could be his own man. And, you know, can't nobody tell me nothing. I think what I would go back and tell myself is like being rebellious and being against the grain type of person is you, but don't make it hard on yourself. You had a lot of good people in your life that offer good advice. I'm not a person that grew up around I had a lot of bad influences around, but I'll say I had enough good people around that pushed me in the right direction to where I would tell my younger self, listen more. You don't know everything. Some of these people ain't just trying to push their ways on you. They really want what's best for you. Work hard, put your best effort. Don't half-ass the things that you do in life, because hard work beats talent most often. And you can be fooled by your talent getting you so far and giving you different opportunities. But that's just you ruining your blessing. I would tell my younger self, like, to find your spiritual base and stick with it. I would say stay tight with your family. I would say less friends, more family. It's a lot of things I tell myself, and I would definitely tell my younger self to focus more on the opportunities that you have and appreciate them. Don't take them for granted, because you don't never know when, if ever you'll get those same opportunities again. But I would tell myself, like, you're gonna be good, bro. Like if it don't kill you, it's gonna make you stronger on that
Let me
end.
teach you how to vibe.
But that's definitely what I would tell my younger self, and that's what I tell my kids, man. Like give your best effort. Don't let anybody else affect the decisions you make. Make your own decisions. Be your own person. Everybody ain't coming with you. Everybody that's there now ain't gonna be there when it comes in the end. It's all about you, and you putting your best foot forward and your best effort forward, and going 1,000% towards anything that you're passionate about. Like, if you're gonna do it, do it. Don't play around with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead and put all your energy and your effort into it. Put your heart into it. That's what I would tell my younger self. He said, why are the Titan fans mad at Cam for not being satisfied with his performance and calling it a bad attitude? Because they don't understand what a true competitor is. It's not about outplaying Shador. And this is something I want to say too. It's so many people that's like, oh, Shador is better than Cam. Oh, Cam's better than Shador. Like, how about, like I said in the beginning, they both are good. They're both in bad situations. They both are going through coaching changes. They both are trying to navigate a rookie season, dealing with a team that's at the bottom of the NFL and has been at the bottom of the NFL for the last few years. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to go through. So people need to stop trying to pit them together and say Shador outplayed Cam Sunday. He did. He balled. But it's a surprise to people who don't like Shador and thought that, oh man, Shador is trash. He's a 5th round pick. He failed. He must suck. Then you go see him ball. You're like, well, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's really good. Like, duh. Like, how could you watch him in college and watch his career and his trajectory and the work he put in to not think that Shador Sanders was good? Now you're realizing not the Titans should have picked him. The Titans pick who they wanted. They got a week with Shador at Senior Bowl, and they got a week with Cam Ward, and they picked Cam Ward. And Cam Ward has been everything this franchise has needed, as far as holding people accountable, making people work. After a win that they should have won a little bit more convincingly in the end, they should have closed the game out. He's not satisfied. He left plays on the field. He knew it's some reads he made with the interception, the Bush falling into, they switched out of man to zone and tricked him. He had Chim DK for a touchdown. Van Jefferson dropped a touchdown. He knew he left plays on the field, and as a competitor, he know being two and whatever right now is not up to standard. He's not happy with that. He's a real winner. Some people don't understand a winning mindset. What happened last time they won and they celebrated? They got flooded the next week. He don't want to play the 49ers and get flooded. That's what fans have to understand. And fans also have to understand that like Shador's first game against the Ravens, he didn't play well and people dogged him out, and like they thought it was funny when he said, wait till I get some practice in. Now he's getting practice. He got to sit in and learn to be a pro. Can he stack another game like that next week? He's going to have a tough stretch. He's going to be playing the Bills, the Bengals. He got a lot of tough teams going down the stretch that's hungry and fighting. So they play the Steelers. So he has a tough stretch. The Tennessee Titans play the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Saints, who's been playing better, and then end with the Jaguars, who's going to probably be playing that game for the AFC title. And we knocked them out of the playoffs a few years ago, and they knocked us out of the playoffs a few years ago. That's a bitter rival. So you got to think about the games coming down the stretch that these guys got to stack good games, not wins, but they got to stack good games. And it's confusing to me to see the amount of people that thought Shedeur Sanders was not a good quarterback. But it's not about Shedeur and Cam. Because guess what? People said Jaden Daniels went to the NFC Championship and Caleb Williams and Drake May is trash. And now this year, Jaden Daniels is beat up. You got the same people saying, well, he's not fit to run around that much this year, not considering that Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson are not on the team. And he's having to run more. And he got injured because he got left in the game when he should have been out. If we being fair, of course they're going to not be as good as they was last year going to the NFC title. That was an anomaly. But Jaden Daniels is a dog. He's a franchise QB. Now Caleb Williams has a better supporting cast and a better coach. And the Bears are a playoff team. Then you see Mike Vrabel come in with Mac Daniels. And then you see what they're able to do in the free agency and the draft. And now the Patriots probably going to win their division. And it'll be a playoff team. Now the two quarterbacks that won, 3 or 4 games last season that people thought were trash. Now they're saying they're better than Jaden Daniels. How about Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake May are all good, and they're young, and they're building, and they're learning, and they're figuring things out on the fly. So Jackson Dart, Shedeur, and Cam Ward all could be good quarterbacks. You just don't think about, is Stefanski gonna be back next year? All the 8 quarterbacks and all the turnover they've had in Cleveland, along with, Brian and Bill Callahan being fired in the first week of the season, and Brian Daboll being fired, and Jackson Dart getting put in the blue tent. So how about all 3 of those quarterbacks could be good? Just because Jackson Dart is playing good doesn't mean Shedeur sucks. And just because Shedeur is playing good doesn't mean Cam Ward sucks. Because guess what? If the game plan would have been for Cam Ward to try to throw the ball 45 times against Myles Garrett, he probably would have got killed in Cleveland. This probably was a good thing for the first time in 2 years the Tennessee Titans were able to run the football. That's what you should do with a rookie quarterback. It took them this long to figure it out. But these are things that the organizations are having to see, the coaching staffs are having to see, and that these young players are learning. So it just baffles me that people think that 2 things can't be true. Shedeur can outplay Cam Ward, but that doesn't mean the Titans shouldn't have picked Cam Ward. It could be in the future that some of these teams, like the Raiders, that overlook Shedeur Sanders, is kicking themselves saying, man, we could have had Shedeur Sanders in the 4th, 3rd, the 2nd round on top of the draft class we had. That could be true because Tyler Shuck has been playing better for the Saints in the second half of the season. So it might be some teams sitting around thinking, like I told y'all last year, I think this draft class is better than the one that's coming this year. People called me crazy and said I was being naive. Now it's coming to find out Cam Ward is the Titans franchise quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, it could be the Browns franchise quarterback. Could be. Jury's still out. He still has time to play, but obviously he's the best thing in Cleveland. And he's good enough to build around. No quarterback has thrown for 350 and had 4 touchdowns in a game. He's their guy. The Giants have found their guy. Jackson Dart, to me, is a better athlete and a better QB prospect than Daniel Jones was. He got a $160 million contract from them. So I'm saying maybe these teams, the Saints have Tyler Shuck, who they've been dealing with Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler and Derek Carr. Maybe these teams have hit. The Seahawks have Sam Darnold and Jalen Milroe learning. The Steelers have Aaron Rodgers, and now Will Howard is learning. The Colts, even though they're going through a thing, we're going to get to see if Riley Leonard can play quarterback. So in these situations, maybe, just maybe, people need to stop rushing to judgment after one game this way or that way to say that this player is bad, this player is good. Consider the circumstances. Because last night I seen that Justin Herbert is one of the most sacked QBs in the league. And I seen that some of these other quarterbacks that's at the top of the league that are veterans are leading the league in turnovers and sacks. Now, for the rookies, for Shedeur and Cam Ward, they hold the ball too long. But when I see Justin Herbert with a broken hand getting hit 5,000 times last night, you say he's tough because he's holding the ball. So you got to make up your mind. Which one is it? Which one is it? But that's their own guilt. And they trying to use a media war to say they use Shedeur for media all offseason. Now he's went through and battled through all of that to be the starting quarterback of the Browns. It's obvious that a lot of teams passed on him that shouldn't have passed on him. The Cardinals, the Colts, now in a situation, the Raiders, all these teams that need quarterbacks now, they are sitting there scratching their head thinking, man, we could have got this guy in the fourth round, are starting to think we might have missed out on one. And that's the thing is, people have to take their own bias and on prejudgment about what they think about a person and just think about the situation and the player and the opportunity, because it doesn't have to be Cam Ward is bad and Shedeur is good, or Shedeur is bad and Cam Ward is good. Like, they both could be mid, or they both could be really good, or they both could be below average. At the end of the day, like, their trajectories are not tied to each other the same way Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels are not tied to each other. Everybody's path through the NFL is different. Look at Bo Nix. Look at all the QBs that came out. It just depends. Can this organization put the right coach, the right scheme, the right players around this player for them to succeed? And if you do, then you'll get success. He said, why is FB so bad? Man, you tell me. He says, which do you think gives Cam a better chance to help him take that next step as the franchise QB? A bell cow running back who can give the ball 20 times to a game, or a true dominant wide receiver one? I'm going to say the wide receiver one is more important. Now, they got Tony Pollard on contract through next year. If they cut him next year, it's only a $2 million hit. But they got Tony Pollard through next year. They got Tajay Spears contract years next year, last year of his rookie deal, which he was a top 100 draft pick from the Tennessee Titans. And Khalil Mullins, who we haven't seen because he's been injured all year, but he's back healthy the last 3 weeks. He's been on the 53-man roster. He's a 6'2", 225-pound bell cow running back out of Michigan. Now, Bergonzi and the Chiefs and Veach was always able to get those late round running backs like Pacheco, bring in Kareem Hunt back. I would love to have Jeremiah Love. I would love to have a Breece Hall, but the way they ran the ball Sunday just let me know that it was all about attitude and committing to running. If they brought in a Breece Hall in the free agency, I would be happy. If they don't and they draft a late round running back to go into the rotation and come back with what they got, I would be cool. But you just got to commit to running it. You know, Tony Pollard had his career day running the ball Sunday. When a lot of people think he didn't have a lot in the tank, I don't think you can expect that out of Tony Pollard for a whole season. But you don't need that. You just got to commit to a strong run game. Most good teams got multiple running backs. Everybody don't got Saquon. Everybody, even the Niners who we about to play, have McCaffrey, and they still went and got Brian Robinson. Like, the 49ers always have multiple running backs. Like, I think you got to have a good stable of backs and a strong running game, not necessarily a Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, it would be cool for the Titans to have that because we are running back you. Earl Campbell, Eddie George, Derrick Henry, Chris Johnson. You know, like, we've been that. And I think they'll get a chance to add something like that in. I just don't know if you went into the draft and said, I could take the best receiver off the board or Jeremiah Love. As much as I want to take Jeremiah Love, I take the best receiver because I could always get another supplemental back in the draft. Because even if they get a good running back, look at the Raiders, you got to commit to running it. Running is a coaching, running is attitude. You know, it's a want to. So I think if they did take a bell cow running back, I wouldn't be mad. But Cam Ward is a gunslinger. He needs somebody that can beat those zero blitzes. Teams are going to zero the Titans if the Titans can't beat it. And once they prove they can zero it, you start getting safeties back too high, and the running lanes will be open for any running back, whether it's Tajay Spears, whether it's Tony Pollard, Khalil Mullins, or anybody we draft. Like, I like Raleek Brown and Robert Henry out of UTSA. I like Nick Singleton out of Penn State. It's a few running backs I like. So it's like, and I like Brees Hall in the free agency if they could get him, because I think Brees Hall is a guy that can catch it, can run it. But that's my answer to that question. I would take the top receiver because you could get you could get a multitude of running backs to handle business. Look at the Bears.
Let me teach
they
you
got
how to
Swift
vibe.
and Kyle Monangai. Nobody knew who Monangai was except for So Amazing. You know, you look at the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson was a later pick for them. He wasn't a top pick. You know, you don't have to get the first round bell cow running back. You can get Javonte Williams on the Cowboys. You know, it's $2 million. So that's my answer to that question. Hope I answered your question correctly, Becker. Yeah, both are important, but if I had to take one right now for Cam Ward, he needs a number one guy. If you watch the highlights of how the Browns played us, when they zeroed, we got nobody that could just win a one and get open and dunk. We need somebody that can get open and dunk to where teams will stop that zero blitz and they'll say, we can't afford to get cooked on the outside like that. And that would open up the run lanes. Because, I mean, you look at Tony Pollard, you know, ran for 170 yards yesterday. And that's the first time the Titans outran their opponent in this season. You know, it's the biggest running output since Derrick Henry and look how long that's been. You're talking about going back 3 years before you had a day like that where you just beat a team up front running the football. So I think that's like, you know, mentality of the offensive line, the coaches to commit to it, and what it can open up in the pass game by being able to run. I don't think you got to have the best running back in the league, but it would be nice to have a superstar back in Nashville. But I think right now for where they roster is sitting at, you know, I could bring the roster up for the 5,000th time. Comedy 2 times gonna get mad if I do it. But if I show you the Tennessee Titans receiving core, you got to be saying, yeah, they need a number one.